What if you woke up one day and found the clock running backward? Not just the clock, but time itself bending to an unseen force. I rubbed my sleepy eyes, trying to make sense of the strange sound that had woken me up. It wasn't the usual hum of the morning birds or the creaking of the old wooden floors. It was a rhythmic ticking, but not the comforting kind. This one was sharp, erratic, and growing louder by the second. Confused, I glanced at the clock on my bedroom wall. My heart skipped a beat. The clock's hands were spinning, backward. I blinked several times, convinced I was still dreaming, but the motion continued. Each tick seemed deliberate, like it was mocking the natural flow of time. The second hand spun with a strange urgency, the minute hand followed, and even the hour hand crept in reverse. Yet, bizarrely, the time displayed was still the same as it had been when I first looked at it. I tried to shake off the uneasiness. Maybe the clock is just broken, I muttered to myself. But when I picked up my phone to check the time, it was blank. The screen wouldn't light up no matter how many times I pressed the button. I reached for my wristwatch next, only to find its hands motionless, frozen in place. I couldn't ignore the gnawing sense of dread any longer. Something was wrong. The ticking noise grew louder, resonating through the room like a heartbeat. I covered my ears, but its ornate hands spun backward, and its pendulum swung in the wrong direction. The once majestic chime it emitted now sounded distorted and hollow, like a ghostly echo. "This can't be happening," I whispered, my voice trembling. I looked outside the window, hoping for some normalcy, but the world beyond seemed just as disjointed. People on the street moved in reverse, their steps rewinding like a video played backward. Cars backed up through intersections. Even the leaves that had fallen to the ground floated upward, reattaching themselves to branches. It was as if time itself had been flipped on its head. Panic set in. I grabbed my phone again, but it remained unresponsive. A thought struck me. My old journal. If everything else was betraying me, maybe something as analog as pen and paper would help me make sense of this madness. I rushed to my desk, yanked open the drawer, and pulled out the worn notebook. To my dismay, the ink on the pages began to fade as I read, words disappearing into blankness. The air felt heavier now, like the world itself was collapsing under the weight of this strange phenomenon. I felt trapped, like I was caught in a loop I couldn't break free from. My pulse quickened as I turned my attention back to the living room clock. Its hands had stopped moving entirely, frozen at 12. Darrow-do-daw. But the ticking noise remained, louder than ever, pulsating like a countdown. What happens when it reaches zero? I thought, dread filling every fiber of my being. I sat in the center of the room, clutching my knees, as the ticking slowed down, each tick spaced out further and further. The sound finally ceased, leaving an oppressive silence in its wake. The clocks were all still now. I waited for something to happen, anything, but nothing came. Only silence. Time returned to its natural state eventually, or so it seemed. But that night left me with a lingering question. Was it just a broken clock? Or did I glimpse something far beyond human understanding? A moment where time itself rebelled against its rules. Have you ever felt like time was playing tricks on you? Maybe a strange coincidence or an unexplainable moment. Share your stories in the comments below. And if you're ever caught in a moment where time seems to stand still or run backward, remember, sometimes the answers lie not in the clocks, but in ourselves.